Here we are. We are finally jumping into the code, and I can finally explain how the code is structured. So as you can see here, I am in the app.py file. You could think of the app.py file as the shell to the overarching application. So this is going to mainly consist of the navigation, the footer, maybe any burger modals that you're using to kind of help direct the user to individual pages. But basically what you're trying to do is you're trying to section your application into bite-sized pieces. So each page should be its own file. And the app.py is the shell that allows you to direct into these different pages. So for us, I want to kind of talk about how this is structured. I'm going to use some basic imports in this example and in this project. OS is going to be the operating system, and then we also have Stripe, which we are using to build out the Stripe payment system. We are using Dash, and within Dash, we're going to be using Dash again, HTML, DCC, and page container. Page container allows us to direct the individual pages. The individual pages are going to be in the pages folder. So you want to create a pages folder in the directory, and then within that is where you're going to put the pages that is going to be like the home page, to create a new product page, or analytics page, or whatever about me page, whatever you're trying to create a page about within your application. So with that, we need to configure the Stripe payment system for our application. So to do that, I hit on the Stripe import, and then I bring in the API key, and then I point to operating system, and then environ is basically the environment variable, which is going to be looking for the .env file in your project, and it's going to get the Stripe secret key, which is going to be this right here. So it's looking for this, and then it's going to grab that specific key. And you don't need to use quotation marks whenever you're using that key. So outside of that, I imported _main. This is really cool and useful, but this makes this available to all pages. So basically what I'm doing is I'm saying _main.stripe, which is basically defining a new variable, which is going to be Stripe, and I want that to equal to Stripe. So all I'm saying is that within main, this import, I have this new variable, and it's going to be Stripe, which is this right here. So we'll see how that's going to be used in a minute, but for now, we have to initialize the Dash application. So to start off, we need to define the app. The app is going to equal Dash. You pass through a name, and we're going to be using pages, so we basically need to define within the prop, use pages equals true, and then we need to point to our pages folder, and that's going to be within the pages folder right here, so it knows where to find the pages for individual pages that are going to be rendered within the application. So another thing that I did is I provided this app.server config, which allows us to define a variable within the server that is kind of hidden. But this allows us to provide this variable, which is a dictionary. It's just a blank dictionary right now, and it's not going to do anything in this application, but it is something that you can use and build out further along the way if you so choose. But basically what this is used for is you can hit on this to allow you to store sessions within the checkout. So basically, if somebody fails to go through the checkout, you can save that within the dictionary, and then you can use that in maybe the analytics page to show how many people failed to go through the checkout, so you have an understanding of how many people dropped out prior to actually making a purchase. So this could be a really useful tool in building out Flask and Dash applications. So this is pretty cool. Outside of that, we need to define the layout for the application. So over here on the left-hand side of the screen, we can see that this is going to be the application that we're going to be building out together. So right now in this actual app.py, this isn't showing any of this. This code is going to be within a page, okay? The app.py is only going to show the navigation and then the header. So that's all this is doing right now. So we can look at this app.layout, and we can see that the header right here is going to be the Stripe integration, which is this right here, which I can show. And then I also provided this section for navigation links, where I'm just using dcc.link to point to a specific name, and then I'm providing a href, which is going to be a location for the link to go to. So a base slash just goes to the root of the application, where a slash create product is going to go to the create product page. and that will connect whenever we go to the page, as you can kind of see that. So outside of that, I provided some style to kind of just make things look a little bit nicer, like float these to the right. This is wrapped within a div, so that's kind of how I'm doing that. And then I also define like background color to just make it look a little bit different, a border, and just give that a solid with a 2 pixels so that you can kind of see a distinction between the page and the navigation. So outside of that, this page container is that import, if you recall, from the top where I have this page container. This is where the page is going to be dynamically rendered from. So whenever it runs the application, depending on what URL you are on within the app, it is going to render the page container based off of the page that you are supposed to be on. So that's how that works. Outside of that, we have this if name equals underscore main. That basically tells the application to run. If the application is the same name as the file that it's trying to run, then just run it. And it basically creates this little trigger button, which you can use to run the application. Outside of that, I provided some print statements to show up in the terminal to at least tell you that things are running. And then outside of that, we need this app.run and then debug to true if we are in development. And then the port could be whatever port that you want. But it's basically going to be 4 numbers, and it's going to be defined by the URL. So for example, we're going to run this real quick, and I will stop and rerun, and I will pull this up, and we can see this in action. Here we go, and this brings up the application. So this is the app.py file. So let's jump into the individual pages and break those down.